Good morning, afternoon, evening or night, whenever you're watching this, welcome. I am stood in the same river that I've filmed in many times before, at roughly the same place that I filmed at twice. I'm a little further downstream, but aiming to follow the riverbank back up, then across and down the other side, seeing what relics and things of interest I can find and doing a bit of a clean-up as I go. First find after the plastic sweet wrapper is a cricket ball. Made of wood and wrapped in leather. Think cricket might be maybe the fourth most popular ball game in the UK, after football, rugby and tennis. A screw which from the patina looks to be brass, and I take almost all of the scraps of brass and copper I find in rivers and old dump sites for use in my forge. Little crayfish missing one of its front claws. I will try not to scare it as I pass by. A warped brick and a crayfish claw near the water, which suggests either otters or mink, both of which do live in this river. That looks like a wheel from a mill trolley, cast iron and maybe 100 to 250 years old, give or take a few decades. Strange looking arrangement, a locking pin far too long. Guess it might not be from a mill trolley, but I'm fair certain still that it's from a mill. There's the remains of a 16th, 17th, 18th and 19th century mill just a short way upstream. It was added to and built upon for centuries until fire destroyed much of it in 1896, and the rest and the restored bits burned down just 10 years later. Looks mildly interesting. So, box iron or steel set in concrete inside a thick plastic tube. I have no idea, but I can at least move it out of the water to lessen the chances of the plastic smashing down into ever smaller pieces. A little bit of pottery, depicting a viaduct. Was just looking up to see if I was alongside the arches of the mill yet. I'm not. I recently met a magnet fisher who says he plans to come here. I know for sure he'll find a lot of iron. I'm more doubtful that he'll find much that's particularly interesting or identifiable. There's a lot from the old mill, very rusty and misshapen by the fires and building collapse. This looks, I don't know, maybe part of a lock? That certainly looks a bit like a keyhole, though locks are rarely made of iron. I'll take it and maybe put it through a cycle of electrolysis. A ring. It looks like a really big eyelet, and I think it's probably brass. I'll take it. Oh, okay, that's solid brass. Just a guess, I don't know the name of it, that thing that moves the meeting point between, say, carpet and wooden floor. Usually aluminium these days, but perhaps once brass? Any other ideas? bit of a bread dough rising bowl, probably around about 100 years old, maybe older. The same design was used for around 300 years. Now, is this from a flagon or just a pot? The handle suggests flagon, and there's quite a few bits of it lying around. I wonder if it's all here, and if it is, might be fun to stick them all together again. The top with some words. Not sure what that says. Not looking like there's going to be more than about a third of it. That's a shame. This top end of a beach is usually where quite a bit of pottery washes up. It gets dropped by the swirl that forms beneath the remains of a weir. Some blue and white here. It's the little building from the garden scene of Willow Pattern. And that, I'm not too sure. Could be part of a Victorian water filter, though they tend to be a bit more ornate. Perhaps if there's anyone watching who really knows about pottery, they might be able to tell me what it's from. I wonder if Richard Henry is watching. He'd probably know. He is subscribed, but that's no guarantee. Every time I come to this beach, that iron spike there looks a little bit more buried, and I still don't know why it is there. This is new. Well, new to the beach, and I guess it's probably going to get buried alongside the spike, unless it floats off out of here again. Far too big for me to deal with. Some milk glass, part of a wall tile. I've never actually seen a wall tiled in glass tiles like this, but I'm assured that that's what they are. Blue and white. Nothing much to make out. Vibrant and almost flat, so it could be useful in crafts. Leaves. No, too curved in the wrong direction. That's not a type I see very often. Think it might well be German origin. And is that a piece of clay pipe stem I see? Yes, heavily eroded and not really very special, but the only piece so far I've found on this outing. About 16 months ago I did a litter pick on this hillside, took away 2 bin bags full. Glad to see that although there's some new plastic washed up here, there isn't much new thrown down the hillside by humans. Okay, these branches are going to take some getting past. See you on the other side. This is one of the most broken up weirs I know of, which seems a little strange to me given that this is not a particularly turbulent stretch of river. Even in floods it's not often all that violent, so perhaps the weir is very old. The first mill on the site was on maps in 1599 and was probably there for a few years beforehand. It was built for milling corn, and that surprised me. This is not a corn growing area. At least, the farmland hereabouts has been almost exclusively used for animal agriculture for centuries. That looks like a mill trolley wallowing in the water. Let's go take a look. Okay, it's not the one that I found here last time. That one only had 4 wheels, and it was about 10 meters downstream. In fact, I'm currently at the top end of a mill site, so I think that it's unlikely to have come from this mill. I do somewhat regret not taking the last one home and trying to restore it, but that hillside is steep. I would guess about 10 meters vertical over 15 horizontally to get back to the road, and then the road itself back to where the car is parked is another 50 meters and also fairly steep. So once again, and with a little more regret, I must leave it. 422115 has a feeling of being something industrial, and if it wasn't for the numbers being the way up that they are, I'd have thought maybe the bottom edge of a toilet. And is that something I really want to take? No. Yes. Maybe. I don't know. Still want to find out for sure what it was. Oh, I see some brass near to the beer bottle, and I think it's something I recognise. Yes, it's a flotation chamber for a carburettor from a very vintage car. There might still be a bit of oil trapped in there, but the top can be taken off, it can be cleaned out. Probably isn't in a state to be restored, and probably not worth it either, but I like it as the antique relic it is, and I'll take it. In case you were wondering, no, I'm not a vintage car mechanic, and not even all that well versed in mechanics in general. I just recognised it because I went through a bit of a vintage car obsession about 20 years ago. And that's probably the right time to have such an obsession when I had no chance whatsoever of obtaining a vintage car. I think I'll now try to go with the most efficient car available that's also affordable and suitable for where I live. Part of a garden bench. I think this might have been upstream about 30-40 metres or so last time I was here. A great big stopper, most likely from a chemicals container and quite likely from a dye works mill. Nice spiral in the top, they're almost never decorated. Perhaps the potter making it was having a good day and was trying to spread some happiness. That thought has made me smile. A motor. Quite an old one. I think it might be an incomplete car starter motor. I am quite happy to be corrected if I'm wrong. Not sure if I can harvest the copper and brass from this, but I certainly don't think it would be worth restoring. Cartwheel, I think, off a mill cart. Must have been quite a few carts dumped in the river to be finding this number of related finds. This is the first time I've been here that the river has been low enough to wade across beneath this bridge. I doubt that I will find much worth finding over this side, but of course I'm still going to look. The bottom of a rich pottery marmalade jar. There's actually much more pottery on the riverbed than I was expecting there to be over this side, because the main current is 2/3 of the way over from here. Cool, another vintage bit. I'm not sure what it is, other than it looking like fire came out of one end. Not particularly hot fire either, because brass melts at around 930 Celsius, 1700-ish Fahrenheit. So I'm guessing gas heater of some kind, or incomplete. Well, there's a turn up for the books. It looks to be an intact electrical insulator, and I think that, aside from vulcanite rubber ones, this is the only intact one of this size that I've ever found. So, happy to find it, and after cleaning it up a bit more, we'll be happy to take it. Oh, days like this. Makes me want to kayak down the river. The logistics of it need working out. I could stash the kayak by the river upstream, drive and park somewhere downstream, walk up again to the kayak, which hopefully hasn't been stolen by that point, and float back down. Too deep for my boots to go further, so if I want to go up that stream over there, and I think I do, then I have to backtrack a bit to cross beneath the bridge. I do sometimes get so into just watching the reflections on the ripples of the water that nothing else matters, like my bag being all the way back over there. Ah yes, I spotted that from the riverbank. Looks to be another insulator. It's a different style, has some damage. For all I know, it might be a really rare one. It's certainly one I don't think I've seen swimming free in the rivers before, but could equally be quite common, and I think I'm going to leave it. By all means, let me know just how rare or common it is, Richard Serridge. I do like the underside of this bridge. Tragedy. I dropped the first and only intact ceramic insulator of this size that I've ever found directly onto rocks. I was just trying to hold too many things in one hand. Does look like there should have been room in the grip of the hand, but apparently not. There is a slim chance that I can see another one. It's certainly an insulator. I can't see from here if it's intact or even close. It's another insulator style entirely, and it is very broken. Oh well, I'm not a collector and I will not long mourn this loss. I'll have probably forgotten by tomorrow, and only remember it when I'm editing the video. Now I have to try and re-find the circuitous route across, made up of bits of riverbed not quite deep enough to swamp my boots. It may take some time. I actually crossed to the middle point, hence why there's water on those stones, but I had to decant my finds from my hands to a small pile in an easy-to-re-find place. Free them up for what I'm about to find. No idea what that might be, or if my hands will be enough, but the finds bag is somewhere downstream, so travelling right. Okay, I can do this. Crossing it on tiptoes because the water level is the same height as my boots, really is less than a centimetre from swamping them. And my reward for a challenge successfully met is some bricks. Alas, too many, too heavy for the return journey. Wow, this is cheaper than it looked, which means that it's not brass, as some of the fake patina suggests. It's probably steel, but it's still a moderately nice garden tea light holder, and I might take it. Binoculars. Not very good ones, really quite broken, and attached to a brick. Just a guess, but I think they were once on the balcony above. 2 invasive species, Japanese knotweed and Himalayan balsam. Both increase erosion of riverbanks massively, but what can you do? I'm legally supposed to report the Japanese knotweed to the relevant authority, but sadly no authority wants to claim responsibility for dealing with it. Oh well, nice pretty little stream with some pottery pieces to pick up. First bit, edge of a willow pattern plate. Second bit, nicely vibrant. And third bit is a print of holly, green on white, and some blue bin liner bags which I'll grab on my way back. I'll wander up as far as the bridge, see if there's anything worth finding. strange flow pattern. The main current comes down here, turns a sharp right angle to head past a weaker central flow, and big mystery, one of these three tunnels, either the central or the furthest, can't remember off the top of my head, was almost completely blocked last time I visited. Pebbles and rocks almost all the way up. I crawled through the gap, hoping to find some interesting relics, and in places I was brushing against the apex of the arch and having canal water drip down onto me. Not the best experience I've had. Anyway, didn't find anything very much on the way up to this point, a little bit of plastic, and no more interesting pottery. I will look from different angles on the way back down, so I might find something. Fingers crossed. Car speaker I think. I will knock the accretion off it if I can and remove the remaining plastic. Oh dear, there's a fish almost out of the water. I'm not sure what kind of fish, but I don't want to impede it, so move the things. And I don't want to stand on it either, so I'll watch where it goes. Back down on the main channel and heading downstream, got my finds in a garden lamp. The plastic is in a too awkward to carry pile back on the other side of the bridge. I'll have to locate my finds/rubbish bag before I go back for it all. And the second cricket ball of the day, must be the season for 'em. No use to me, but perhaps I can drop them back onto a cricket pitch. The chocolate bar wrapper. Ball of rust. Don't think there'll be much left inside. Really not been finding much here on the beaches today, and that's okay. It just encourages me to search out new places to mudlark and riverwade, new historic sites and ruins, and to generally explore further afield. Time now for the dump site. Down beside the nice even steps, there rarely is any formal access for bottle diggers and mudlarks. Looks like maybe a bit of soil has been shifted here. Didn't really think there would be any more digging. It's so close to the edge of the playing field at the top. Nothing here of interest to me. So clean and almost good condition, just also quite broken. Some brass. I think it's a powder compact, the surface of it totally eaten by corrosion. Any pattern or etched monogram in the brass will be long gone. That's not an impediment to it being of value to me. Now, anything up there? No, just a golf ball. Oh, though, it's not just any golf ball, it's a tailor-made too, fairly expensive. No idea if they're any good. Golf doesn't particularly hold my interest. I do pull the balls out of rivers, though. A glass battery, that wasn't here the last time I was. Quite broken. Oh well, I'll take the copper wire, and I'll take the lead plate from out of the battery. Only one piece, there's usually two. Can't see it, might be in the river already. I've reached the end of a line of diggings, only found some plastic, some lead and some copper, and only one of those I take with any enthusiasm. Think I need both hands today to get down there safely. See you down there. Lots and lots of flying insects. They do seem to like this former mill feeder stream. I've never found much in this channel, and don't think today's going to be any different. but if I do find something, I'll bring you back. Despite searching online quite a few times, poring over old photographs and the few newspaper articles from the time that I could find, I still don't know why that mill had arches next to the river. It's not something I've seen in any of the other local mills, so is it something that somebody not local to this locale might recognise and can shed some light on? It's nothing very special, but I've spotted some wire, and because for that I'm wading out, may as well check out the rusty thing too. It's a saw blade, a very rusty saw blade, and here's the wire, well buried under many heavy rocks, and I think it might curve around to all the way over here, where similar wire is poking out. Definitely going to need 2 hands to extract this. This bit of riverbank doesn't have anything poking out. There is, of course, some plastic and a bundle of wire brought by the river, and I'll remove both, but then there's a spilling out of the old dump site further downstream in this miniature carved out bay. The underlying dump site certainly doesn't seem to follow the rigid lines of parkway down on top. Last time I was here, I spotted some copper pipe sticking out up there and then forgot to collect it. It's not there now. In fact, I don't think there's anything really of interest left here. A few bits of plastic to remove and the smallest bit of wire. Not seeing anything else but broken pottery and glass. Wasn't really expecting to find anything here, so I'm not disappointed. Black glass. The base of a bottle with a pontil mark. Not sure if it's a real one though. Looks a little too neat to be hand blown. That's roughly where I started, over there. I'll have a look around here, and then have a look inland. I haven't really explored this end of the site before, beyond the end of the park. I do wonder if there will perhaps be more ruins of an old mill. Some milk glass, of course. Wow, it's impressively scratched and river tumbled, and only just missing the fragile bit at the top, and that looks mildly intriguing. It's aluminium, and I think I know what it was. Ice cream scoop. That will most likely never ever scoop ice cream again. Okay, this is very similar to something I've found before. It has rust at its core and curls of brass and possibly aluminium. Brass running through the rust. I don't think it's really feasible to unwrap it all and reconstruct it, trying to guess the shape that the iron component was, so I think its original form is going to remain a bit of a mystery until I find one less corroded. Really is a beautiful place, but is there enough here to bring me back? Not sure yet how to read the shapes. A tumbled pile of stone that was once a mill now covered in soil and plants is one option, and there's certainly hints that there was a mill somewhere down this end. There's also a map that says the dump site was in this wood and not under the park after all, where I know it is. Still not sure. There's no bottle digger holes nor standing walls of a ruined mill, but I think there's something like the remains of a mill over there, and some ducks, and I'm certain that there's a mill behind me. Oh, relatively small, used to be larger, I think. The ragged end of the brickwork tells me that. I think it once stretched as far as the prow of a barge, and then, less than 20 metres down the canal, looks to me like the remains of another, right next to a third. Just driving through this place, you wouldn't see the rich tapestry of the history of industry here. It would seem more like a place on the way to other places. Aside from quite a lot of houses, the road through it is now kinda sadly its main feature. But who can see something like that? An abandoned building with a half-walled up doorway, probably part of a bigger mill building that's gone, only one entrance remaining right onto the canal, and not want to explore further. A roundup time. That might be the last time that I make a full-length mudlarking video there. When I kayak down the river, of course it will make an appearance as I'm paddling through, and I will go there again whenever I fancy. I'll even take my camera, might even film some very short videos if I do happen upon anything surprising or really interesting. But mudlarking, river wading, I think what is possible to find there is not really enough anymore to sustain any more full videos. It is a possible spot for a magnet fishing video, but not one that I'm really enthusiastic about. There is a huge amount of iron in the water, but I could see a lot of it, and it looked big, heavy, parts of buildings. I met a magnet fisher on the canal bank a few months ago who was planning on going magnet fishing there. By now he will have done, which further decreases the possibility of me finding enough interesting things with a magnet to make an interesting video. This outing, there weren't all that many finds. I wasn't expecting many really, but I am relatively happy with them. I like a bit of mystery, and there are two pieces amongst the pottery that I haven't been able to identify yet. They're possibly a bit of a toilet, and they're possibly a bit of a Victorian water filter. The rest I took for crafting with. I don't think I've got enough for my chosen project yet, so blue and white pottery has leapt to the top of my list of what I'm looking for when I go out. Never thought that that would be the case. The single bottle stopper I found is still a nice one, with its unusual swirl on top. I don't think I've got a use for such things, but I still like to find them. Perhaps I'll get the hang one day of leaving some of the stuff that I really do like to find, but don't have a use for. I hope that I wouldn't have to convince myself that I don't like finding them to get there. The garden lamp will probably get used on warm summer nights when being out in the garden is a pleasant way to spend late evenings. It's been very windy and wet for the last 2 months here, even when there's been brief periods of blue sky. Most of the brass I ever find is so badly corroded that it goes without much hesitation into the forge materials store. Some of this is that the motor is too corroded, so after more processing it will become some scrap copper and brass to melt down, and some rust for the dustbin. The big strip of brass isn't particularly corroded, but I don't think there's much chance of it being historically interesting, and I have no real use for it as it is. The brass compact is too far gone, too crumbly and too little metallic metal remaining in it, so it will go into a different box which is awaiting the acquisition of a low voltage, high ampage power supply and some 2 molar sulfuric acid to try electrolysing copper ions from copper sulfate onto a pure copper cathode. Don't think it's economically viable on a small scale, but might make an interesting short video. This flotation chamber isn't the most exciting relic to look upon, but it's kinda like a souvenir to me of a long-gone obsession. It has some nostalgia, and I don't intend to melt it down, maybe put it on a shelf or in a printer's tray display. The mysterious bundle of metal there, I think I'm going to hit it repeatedly with a hammer. That should fix it. Well, it'll separate the iron oxide rust from the brass, and that's what I want. This burner thing, I may well have been dead wrong when I said it probably wasn't for anything particularly hot, because brass melts at 930 Celsius, 1706 Fahrenheit. My new map gas brazing torch does have a brass section fairly similar to this, and then a steel section, and I bought it specifically for small-scale brass smelting, so this might have been part of a brazing torch. Now, though, it's probably going to go into a gift box full of likely items for a friend of mine who makes alternative clothing, including some for steampunk aficionados. I do hope that you've enjoyed this video. If you have, and if you'd like to, then any appreciation that you wish to express is greatly appreciated. A big thank you to everyone who does. Press the like button, the subscribe button, write a comment, reply to somebody else's comment, share a link to my videos on another platform, it all helps. A big thank you to all of the kind people who've donated through Ko-fi, super chats during premieres, super thanks on video pages, or through purchases from my Amazon wishlist. It's a strange feeling to have my creative hopes and dreams be supported in such a way. I hope I keep feeling appreciative and very grateful for it, for life. Finally, thank you all very much for watching, and for now, goodbye.